For more on this, we're now joined by Chris Kwaja, who's a lecturer at the Center for Peace and Security Studies at Modibbo Adama University in Adamawa State in Nigeria. Thank you so much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's begin with how this de-radicalization program came about. What was the hope that it would do?
I think before I talk about the de-radicalization program in the context of insurgency in Nigeria, I need to provide a context to what we are dealing with. That since 2009 to date, the Nigerian government and its people have been involved in a very complex conflict, insurgency, and the fight against this insurgency have claimed so many lives, but with specific reference to the insurgents, members of Boko Haram. There are three key categories of these members of Boko Haram we are confronted with. The first layer, those that were arrested, they are in detention. The second layer, those that on their own volition decided to surrender and hand over themselves to government. The third layer, those that were killed during the insurgency, and under that third layer, you still have those that are still on the run, or you might even call them the fourth layer. Now, we are dealing with that specific category of individuals who surrendered themselves to the Nigerian government and handed over their weapons. They were demobilized, and part of the process of de-radicalization was that the Nigerian government established the Operation Safe Corridor. The Operation Safe Corridor was supposed to be an integrated framework for de-radicalization, providing both psychological, social, and even economic opportunities for the complete de-radicalization of these individuals that have decided to do away with what they were doing in the past, which is the use of violence against the state and its people. Now, after that program, what is expected of both the Nigerian government and the individuals that were de-radicalized was reintegration, because they must go back to society. But the question is, which society? Are they supposed to go back to the individuals, the communities, the families that they killed, the families they injured, the families they displaced? That on its own is a very complex situation. And around the world, reintegration is not something that is very simplistic in terms of how it is expressed. It is something that requires a whole lot of work. It has a spiritual, it has a psychological, it has a social, and it has a huge political content to it. And the political content here has to do with the kind of willpower that the government is able to assert or to bring to bear in ensuring that it undertake a program that will be completed. The social has to do with the extent to which members of the communities where these individuals will be reintegrated or reinserted will have to be engaged by government for them to come to terms with the reality of these individuals that were once their enemies and now they are supposed to be their friends. Because if you are not able to deal with this process of reintegration in a way that convinces the communities that, yes, the individuals in question have truly repented, what you will have will be a situation whereby the victims of yesterday become the killers of today. Resentment and revenge will become the defining feature of relationship between the former members of Boko Haram and the individuals or communities or families that they are coming to live with. And it is not enough for Operation Safe Corridor to say we have de-radicalized them. You have de-radicalized them, yes, but to what extent are members of the communities going to play a role in that whole process? And that is where the importance of social capital becomes very key, because at the end of the day, you are going to be looking at how social cohesion is built. You cannot build social cohesion outside of the communities. And in talking about the communities, we need to look at who the individuals are within those communities that should play that role of bridging the gap that exists between the repentant members of former members of Boko Haram that are repented and rehabilitated, and the communities on one hand. And that is where the traditional rulers, the religious leaders, the youth groups, the women groups, and other social capital that exist within the communities become very key. And that is why people are talking about community-centered rehabilitation,
right,
community-centered reintegration, community-centered transitional justice programs. Because if you are not able to put in place a program that addresses issues of issues of justice, issues of impunity in the context of accountability, let these individuals, as they are de-radicalized, also go back to the communities and seek for genuine forgiveness. And we need to borrow from the Gachacha Court. And we need to also know that the Gachacha Court was not just about forgiveness, it was also about justice, accountability for crimes committed. And that is why Rwanda is where it is today. So I think this is something that the individuals saddled with the responsibility of implementing the de-radicalization program must be able to engage the key social networks within those communities that these individuals that have repented or have been de-radicalized need to go to.
All right. I like where you started with the context and this layer of people that surrendered, because I'm guessing that for this process to succeed, there must be willing participants, people who want to change. And I'm just wondering if you've got a sense of why they decided to surrender. Was it a revelation, a genuine movement in the heart, or some other motivation, like they just got tired of fighting?
There are many factors that are responsible for the surrendering. Some on their own volition, thinking that I've committed a lot of damage, I have committed crime against my fellow human beings, I need to repent. Some within the context of the way the structure of these insurgent groups was and how they got balkanized, the infighting within those groups, and some left. There are many factors, and all that contributed to how many of them surrendered. For some, they believe this war, at the end of the day, we will be arrested. Rather than waiting for me to be arrested, I better give in, I better come in, surrender, so that there will be an opportunity for me to either be rehabilitated or whatever program that the government is willing to put in place. But one of the major challenge with reintegration programs, as we see with Operation Safe Corridor, which we need to really think deeply about, is the disproportionate attention and priority given to two categories of persons. One, you have a program that seeks to de-radicalize, seeks to reintegrate individuals. They've been given all manner of trainings, vocational trainings. They will be supported by government to start life, while there are many individuals either displaced or people that have become victims. They've become orphans, women have become widows. And if government, if humanitarian aid agencies are not able to deal with the immediate needs of this set of individuals, then they are left with this notion that being a criminal pays. And it is important for government to provide, to do a more balancing, or to put in place a more effective approach to dealing with the issues in a way that the victims do not feel shortchanged because of the kind of attention given to these repentant members of Boko Haram. I've been in the Northeast. All the states I've been to, Borno, Yobe, and Adama. And even in some of the conversations, you hear people say, we are aware that where these individuals are kept, where the radicalization programs are ongoing, that they are well fed. The place is very good. Many of us are still with host communities. Many of us are still living within areas that are designated as camps for displaced persons. We don't have a place of our own. We still don't have the kind of support that those who hunted us down, those who killed our relations, are having. Now, with this kind of mindset, it creates deep mistrust on the part of citizens when it comes to how they see government.
Mr. Kwaja, I'm running
on its own is something
I'm running out of time.
Taken into consideration.
But if you could answer this last question very quickly. With these de-radicalization programs and reintegration programs, are you getting a sense that Boko Haram's influence might be diminishing?
Boko Haram's capacity to launch maximum damage to a large extent have been decimated. I know there are remnants of them that are on the run, that are still resilient and are still engaged in armed confrontation with the Nigerian state. With what we see now with de-radicalization, you need to also know that the Boko Haram insurgency assumed a transnational character. We are not just dealing with individuals of Nigeria. We see a strong connection between members of Boko Haram and ISWAP, which means the whole corridor of West Africa, the Sahel, and the Lake Chad is an area where individuals have come to see as a place where they can launch attacks. So Boko Haram is no longer a Nigerian kind of insurgency. It has assumed that transnational character. And because of it, it is difficult for one to say Boko Haram has been totally defeated. We might see pockets of resistance, which again is also part of that dying phase of insurgency. I recall the statement the former Chief of Army Staff made, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, that we need to fight, that this insurgency is something that will be with us for the next 20 years. It might not mean that on a daily basis we fight them, but that this surprise attack, episodic attack, will be something that will define that period of 20 years he gave. But the Nigerian military need to be out there, need to be well supported, need to be well equipped, because this is something that they will be confronted with. Surprise attacks will always come, but I think they should be able to position themselves in a way that they are able to respond fire for fire with those members of the insurgent groups that are really out there to engage in armed confrontation with the Nigerian state.
Mr. Kwaja, we've run out of time. Thank you so much indeed for giving us some valuable insights on this de-radicalization and reintegration program. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you.